for the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media. Thank you for coming out. I don't know if it's raining or whatever. We're really, really thrilled to have this panel of esteemed experts and filmmakers talking about the role of that faith can play in content, which, given all the things that are going on in our world, is incredibly important. And so I'm going to bring out my panelists, starting with Charlie Humbard, who is the president and founder of Up Entertainment. And then I'm going to bring out Chris Jones, who is engineer and pastor and political figure extraordinaire. I'm going to bring out Siobhan O'Shaughnessy, a BFF OG, and longtime friend, founder of ACI, American Cinema International. And then I'm going to bring out Cindy Bond, founder of Mission Pictures. And then last but not least, I'm going to bring out Tiffany Long, who is a consultant, has Troops and Allies, and also a big partner of Lionsgate. So I'm actually going to start with Charlie because he has to catch a flight. So I'm going to start with him. And Charlie, so guys up in the booth, why don't we play that little sizzle, and then I'll ask Charlie some questions. So Charlie, I wanted to ask you, given everything that's been going on between COVID and technology and platforms, how is viewership changing, and how are you changing to keep up with that audience and reaching audiences where they are?
Thanks, Madeline. Thanks. Great being here. Thanks for this fabulous panel. I'm honored to be sitting next to all these creators, marketers, and people that are moving movies like this forward and in the industry. So for us, COVID, there was so much tragedy in all of COVID, but for TV viewing, a lot of people, with all the noise on the news and all the bad things you saw all around you, your neighborhood, your family, people getting sick, a lot of people really looked for a refuge to find content on television that was uplifting and positive, gave them some hope in those years of really troubled times. And for us, it was a viewer boom, really. Our ratings were up 30% on the main networks. We grew our streaming service. We have a streaming service it's pretty much like Netflix without all the dark stuff. But we had growth there of around 30% in subscribership. So a lot of people, we were the right brand for the right time, showing off the great product that you all make for us. So it was a good match. So it was maybe one good story that did come out of COVID for us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Chris, I'm going to jump over to you. What I find so fascinating is that he's a man of science and also a man of faith, which you would think that's an oxymoron in a way, but it's, somehow not. And, you went to MIT to become a nuclear engineer, but you also grew up in a faith-driven, household. So what made you kind of kick science to the ground in a way and then pursue your path, which when you think about it, faith, the Bible is the greatest story of all time, right? So
I'm honored to be here and really excited about the discussion, and thank you all for having me. Thank you all for being here as well. I think it's a fascinating question, and it's one that I'd say is not quite on the nail, because I never kicked science or faith aside, because I find that one of the things that's often missing is that we don't hold true to our whole self. And for me, my whole self was both an excitement about answering the question of what, and which is the science, and the how, which is the science, but also about understanding the why and for what purpose, which for me is the faith. And those go hand in hand, and it has inspired me to try to really hone in on the authenticity of the two of those together.
Thank you very much. And so, Siobhan, we have a little video for you. So why don't we play that, and then we'll jump into a question. So can you roll up there? So, Siobhan, you're on the other, kind of the other side of the table from Charlie. So I'd love to start with you in terms of how has the industry shifted in the last few years? You are the guru of pivot, and especially coming out of COVID, how has that translated and manifested for you in terms of what you're developing?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm loving this panel and loving seeing everybody here. The one thing I would say with Charlie, due to the fact that most of my product is wholesome and easy watching, that the whole family could watch, we had just put, right before COVID, just put our stuff on the platforms. And at the same time, we had also acquired a list of 57 African American movies that nobody was touching, and we decided to put them all clean and faith too, and we put them on the platforms. And between 57 and our clean product, you said 36? I would say we jumped almost 80% in business. And at the same time, it was so much so because of the African American and social and the platforms. And they were one of the main people. Tubi was doing incredible. So then we started switching. It's not that I didn't want to do African American films. I just found that when I went to the market with them, my buyers, not so much domestically, but foreign, would go, no, please not that. But now they're accepting it, and a lot has to do because of Empire. The major studios are putting a lot of money. Grey's Anatomy. The foreign buyers are recognizing the faces. They're accepting it. So I kind of coattailed on it. I was like, they're doing it, then I know it's going to happen. So, and it was great. I mean, we boomed, and now we're doing not only African American, white, but we're also doing Spanish. As you can tell at the last, we have a lot of Spanish. And Charlie's even starting some Spanish, Latino. You have Romantico?
Cine Romantico.
Cinema Romantico. So I found after the COVID, I find people are more inclusive. I find as long as the content is good and it feels good, it doesn't make a difference, African American, Spanish, or white. So
Thank you for that. And Cindy, I'm going to go over to you. You've had Mission for many years, and what we know is that, audiences want to see themselves, they want to see their values on screen, and they will reward you for that if they're able to do that. So Cindy, can you talk a little bit about how you are balancing telling great stories, infusing it with faith? Like, what does authenticity for you mean in the content that you're developing? Oh, and I forgot, she has a reel. Sorry, thank you, Siobhan. Let's play that. Great sizzle. So we're talking about authenticity and faith and film, and how do you balance all of that?
I love making movies that celebrate the endeavors of the human spirit, that inspire, that you aspire something in the character of the story. You aspire to be hope-filled. I love true stories. I have to tell you, I look for identifying the intellectual property. To me it's everything. To find a story that, I do go towards that authentic experience that we, live day to day, that we can relate to, that is full of emotion, to connect to the audience. It's super important. Every movie that I make, I really want to pull the audience in. I want that connection, because if you really deeply care about the characters you're watching and the story, you get vested, and then you care what happens to them. And it certainly is a balance. I mean, I look to do something that has, that are values-based, virtues-based, and I tend to gravitate towards a lot of true stories. And I think when you bring up authenticity, I think that's why I'm drawn to true stories. I can only imagine. I started this off of thinking about making a movie off of a group of songs, inspiring songs, and based on a true story, and have others that I'm doing. So identifying that intellectual property to balance the faith, the authenticity, bathe it in excellence, and be passionate about it, because when you make a movie, you, as the producer, you've got to jump in fully for basically ever. You're going to live with this movie forever. And so I literally just dive in, and it just consumes me with my passion and belief in the movies that I make. And again, I love the faith meets authenticity part, because it is what drives me in my creative process to reach for that, so that you really relate into the stories that we're telling.
Thank you for that. So,
May I add one thing?
yeah, go for it.
They did a study, and Disney did.
Use your mic.
Disney did a study, and the study was how people feel when they watch certain movies. So let's say you're watching CSI. You're calm and you're intuitive because you want to see who did it or what happened. But when you watch a movie such as I Can Only Imagine, and he suffered and he battled and he came out and he conquered it, almost like a Rocky, you have happy thoughts for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's what you did.
Thank you for that. And so we're talking about truth in storytelling, and I want to move over to you, Tiffany. Can you talk a little bit about why you formed Troops and Allies? You've also had a long-time partnership with Lionsgate, which is a great partner of the festival, and you're at the intersection between distribution, content, storytelling. So can you tell us the story of how it all got started?
Sure, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you all. It's my first time to Bentonville Film Festival and Bentonville, period, and it's a lovely town and festival. So I have worked in some form of entertainment marketing for 25 years, worked at record labels, worked for other marketing agencies, and about 8 years ago, I decided to start Troops and Allies because there was a real hole in marketing to the faith and family audience. I realized that most of the audience was women, largely women, but there was nobody focused on marketing to women, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I started Troops and Allies. Our mission is simple. It's to tell women about things they will love, and of course we end up telling men about things they will love too, but women make most of the entertainment decisions in their households. They make the decision about what date night movie will be, what family night movie will be, and I wanted to focus specifically. So we're women-owned, and my whole team is women. I would hire a man one day. I'm not opposed to hiring a man. I have 3 boys myself that I love. But we really try to find we love inspiring true stories. We do all the marketing for Kingdom Story Company, who made I Can Only Imagine with Cindy, and distributed by Roadside, and then we've made several films with Lionsgate, and we love what we do. We love to tell inspiring true stories that have the ability to change lives. It's a privilege to get to tell people those stories.
It is indeed a privilege. And so, Charlie, I'm going to go back to you. Can you talk about how diversity, equity, inclusion is showing up in faith and family? What are the trends and how you have adapted? I mean, Siobhan mentioned a little bit, but there's a lot of brands under the umbrella, and our audience may or may not know that.
Sure. I think it goes back to what you were just talking about, Cindy, about all women running it, and you get a result out of that, right? So it starts for us, it starts with who we hire at the company. We have a very diverse company. I think we're somewhere in the mid 40% minority employees in our company. But it starts there because you want to solve problems with diverse viewpoints, right? And diverse perspectives. And when you approach it that way, then it's a natural to go out and cast properly. It's a natural to go out and choose the right production companies because it's not a stretch for you. It's part of who you are. So it starts there for us. I think this past year we were around 40% as far as lead roles in diversity. We're about 50% in secondary roles in diversity. People want to watch people that look like them. We are a general entertainment company that happens to be around uplifting entertainment. But for us to reach the largest audience and them to relate to what we do and to our storytelling, it's important they see people that look like them, the people that think like them, share their values. So for us, diversity is a business decision. It's not just something that we're trying to do for whatever other reasons. There's plenty of good reasons to do it. But for us, it's purely a great business reason to help your business be more successful.
Thank you so much for that. So, Chris, I'm going to go back over to you because you have ventured into the entertainment realm and are executive producing. Can you tell us about that project?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty exciting. The film is called Echoes from Elaine. And what drew me to it, and I'll share a little bit about it real quickly, what drew me to it was this notion that there's a lot of noise out in the environment, and then there's this signal. It's interesting, as I was watching the trailer, I think that our strongest signal is actually love. And the more we can turn up the signal and turn down the noise, the healthier society will have. So for me, part of looking at this film about Elaine, Arkansas, was the story of reconciliation and love. Now, what happened in Elaine in 1919, around the same time as the Tulsa race riots, there was a riot in Elaine, Arkansas. There were sharecroppers, black sharecroppers, who wanted to unionize, and so they were meeting one night, but white landowners from Helena, not far away, found out about it. And so they sent a small contingent of folks to go and check up. Turns out they started a firefight. So they shot into the church where the black sharecroppers were meeting. Well, the black sharecroppers shot back, some people died, and they turned it into something that became insurrectionists, i.e. the black folks were insurrectionists, who were fighting, trying to take over so much land. So a call went out across the nation, and federal troops even came in, and over the course of several days, upwards of 200 African Americans were massacred in the streets of Elaine, Arkansas. And it's a really untold but important story. And this film is about descendants from both sides actually finally coming together. And one of the descendants of the massacred side, she has cancer. And the story is about her journey back home to Arkansas to reconcile with the folks on the other side and what happens in that they're coming together. So Echoes from Elaine, it's in the onlining and finishing stage. So if anyone wants to invest in the film,
I was going to say, when can we air it on Aspire?
Let's
Be a beautiful
talk.
Easter show about forgiveness and reconciliation.
There we go. All right, we're going to talk about it. Yeah,
Deals
Deal
are
cut right
getting
here.
There you go. I
done
love it.
in the
Deals on
room.
the set.
Deals on the set.
In the room.
It's beautiful, though.
But what made you, what inspired you to say, okay, I'm going to tell this story.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this happen. Like what?
So throughout, for y'all who don't know and didn't read the screen, I ran for governor here in Arkansas. Thank you. I traveled the state, all across the state, in the places where they said, you're a black man, you shouldn't go. And what I found fascinating was as soon as you started to dig deeper, there was a connection with people everywhere. And I think that connection was grounded in the notion of love. So after the campaign, one of the things that I wanted to do, and my wife and I talked about it, my beautiful wife's up there, by the way, Dr. Geraldine Jones. Hey, sweetie. One of the things that I wanted to do was figure out how to lift up stories that will uplift us. And so I ran into the folks who were the filmmakers and said, look, I would love to be the executive producer on it because they wanted me to help. And that's sort of how it evolved. The other side, I've also written a devotional. It's called Quantum Pearls. I said that there's no difference between me, my faith, and my science. And so this 30-day devotional is about digging into the mundane moments of your life and finding those pearls that are packed with spiritual wisdom. And it's out on Amazon, Books A Million, all that now, Walmart. So check it out, it's on pre-order. But that's why I'm in this phase of life now where I really want to do more to boost the signal of faith and of love and figure out how to turn down the noise of hate and division and otherism.
Isn't that great? So I think it's going to be Chris Jones Entertainment Enterprise coming to you very soon. So I want to pick up one of the things that Chris was talking about is wisdom. And Siobhan, you have incredible wisdom and insight. And, one of the things you had said to me is, how do we leave audiences with kind of happy thoughts? How do we not be too preachy? And I would like you to talk about that because you're making a choice in your intent.
My intent in our movies is, first of all, to be inclusive of everyone. So it's not that I'm trying to push one religion over another. However, I do call myself faith-based kind of films because it's the small little things for the family. It's not sitting there having to drive. It's like even talking to Charlie. He has Blue Bloods, and I don't know if you all have seen Blue Bloods. It's one of my favorite series of all with Tom Selleck. But besides that, the scenes I love the most are that the family gets together and they sit and they talk. And I'm not talking just the older generation, the younger generation there. Everybody is inclusive, and they do one simple thing before they eat. They pray. They pray. And then they talk. And it's not a kid sitting on a tablet. And it's not a mother sitting here. It's all of them talking together where the young kids hear the adults so they can go up to be just like them. Because I'm finding, and maybe some people find it, I'm finding my younger grandson, who happens to be 4, is his own little world. He's not listening to us. He's not listening to the conversation because they're leaving him alone with his little tablet, and I think that's so wrong. We have to be listening so they can hear us to grow better and become better. So I try to include that in my movies. I've done 8 Amish movies. So in Amish movies, you have a lot of table dinners.
Well, let me say, I have 3 girls, and they love to get on tablets.
Yes.
But your movies bring us together.
Yay.
Because they love to watch them. And we watched several of them I saw they watched together.
Okay, good. And he aired them.
Thank you for that. So Cindy, we're talking about what makes a mission unique and what type of material and stories are you drawn to? We talked about authenticity, but and how has that changed for you over the years? Because you've been doing this for a while. So is there a kind of trend or something that you've been picking up on that has taken you even in an expanded direction in terms of content that you're developing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a very long time. I won't say how many years, but I actually started out by doing a thriller for Lifetime, and a true story. It was great. And then I was raised in Sacramento, California, and my grandparents. And I bring this up because I was raised in a very loving, and I so believe what you said, Chris, loving household, and with good virtues and values. And when I moved down to Los Angeles, all of a sudden I started to look at the entertainment that was out in theaters and television. I thought, where are the movies that I grew up on? They're gone. And I'm part of this audience that's not getting served. And so I literally, it was not really intentional, but one event led to another, and I ended up being a modern day pioneer. And I say modern day because there are plenty of others before me of these, faith-friendly, faith-based films. I started by making them and then distributing them and opened up the marketplace. And then Siobhan and I partnered, And we opened up the international marketplace for inspirational, faith-friendly films. And we did that in 08, started that in 08.
But I find when we did it, it was like people came running up to us saying, we've been looking for this.
Yeah.
We've been looking for this. We just haven't been able to find it. So I find that became a really nice thing. And maybe we didn't work in marketing, but we went to the small little advertisers, the small little towns where the newspapers were there, and we told them about this movie. And if you go to a lot of towns in Arkansas, like, and we're talking like Mountain View and these little places, they are looking for this, and their whole center of their towns are based on these type of things. So you put a little advertising in, and they came running to our movies on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's making a lot of movies. I mean, it was really just this appetite in the marketplace that I just was blatantly evident that basically Hollywood had just moved away from completely, and I felt it was the biggest audience in the whole United States and actually the world that was hugely underserved. And so I really went down that road, and I started making pictures that I believed that the audience, of which I was one of, wanted to see, and just kept making one after another. And I mean, my first feature had Martin Landau. So I mean, I had an Oscar winner in my first feature film. Really, again, looking for great stories. I've not been afraid to go out there and be brave and courageous about the movies that I make. In fact, I had just made a movie that literally wrapped when COVID started. And I mean, I was in South Africa and I wrapped production, and then I literally came through the airports back to Florida. I couldn't get back to California. It was a ghost town. But I will just say, in terms of my transition, I've really expanded a lot, actually, because I didn't want to be someone that was just making movies for a smaller sector of the market. I really wanted to be more broad-based, more commercial. So I actually have two companies. One that is much more broad-based and commercial, and Mission is my faith-based, inspirational label. And so I've got, when you talk about diversity, I have so many pictures with a huge amount of diversity, huge amount. When I did this picture for Hallmark, my movie Enchanted Christmas, we were the first ones to have 3 of my top 4 leads, 3 Latino actors. Those characters, I mean, that was groundbreaking, shockingly, right? And so really pushing for inclusion and equity and diversity. I really believe in that.
Did the channel want it in the beginning? Did the channel want that in the beginning, or did you have to push it?
I had to push.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yeah.
Cindy was the one of the original people to have the idea and to pitch I Can Only Imagine,
Was it,
which what? Yes. And how many of you did any of you see I Can Only Imagine when it was out? Yeah. So the success of that film, which I mean, it made 87 million.
Yeah, worldwide, about 88 worldwide. We were about 84 domestic.
Yeah. So that led to Kingdom Story Company getting a deal with Lionsgate, which led to I Still Believe, An American Underdog, and Jesus Revolution, and upcoming Ordinary Angels, and a whole slate of films, because Hollywood recognized there's an audience that will come to the theaters, that will spend their money, that will leave their homes. It got harder in COVID. It got better for all of you all. It got harder for theatrical because people realized I don't have to leave my house. But they came back for Jesus Revolution. But you are really, responsible, and it's a huge deal. And I don't know if you would say that about yourself, but I'm going to say it for you, because
Cindy is a real pioneer on this front.
She
You
does.
are.
complete pioneer.
And
There were others. There was this very small group of us, and just it's been an amazing journey, and it's fun breaking new ground. It's hard. You get slaughtered. I got so slaughtered in my first company, just annihilated. But you don't give up. You persevere, and when you have a vision, and you know that that's what you're supposed to do, never give up. You get it.
I'm going to add to it, too, because we've been talking a little bit on the fringes of advertising. We've been studying the 40-plus million Americans, we call them the upsiders, who seek your kind of content that you make on a regular basis. And in studying those, we for now 15 years. We've been serving them for 20. But we've done these studies with Walmart involved, with Visa involved, and others. And one thing that really popped for the advertiser was that people will support an advertiser 88% more when they see their ads in those environments. That's huge. I mean, all the work that an advertiser does to make their ads more effective in the message, but if they just put them in the environments of the movies you're making, think of the difference. So for us, it's an environment of an entire channel of your movies that's really benefiting these advertisers. So it's really significant. It's game changing.
Really game changing. And speaking of game changing, over to Tiffany. So what is the secret sauce to having a great marketing campaign? Because the content can be great, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to be successful. So what's in your toolkit?
Well, I think that it's all about connecting the message to the audience. It's finding the people that have a natural affinity for the themes and the message of the film. And if you can meet those two, I tell this stat all the time. 91% of women tell other women about things they love. 91%. But 90% of women feel misunderstood by advertisers. So imagine if you close the gap and those 91% of women felt understood by advertisers and went and told 91% of them went and told their friends. The power's amazing. So we use that same model with our films. You know, on Jesus Revolution, we knew that this was a movie for the church. This is a movie, it's a real life historical event. It was authentic. Nobody had to manufacture a moment to share the gospel. That is what the whole story was about, was the Jesus movement in the late 60s. So we took it directly to churches and we said, do you want to screen this film? Do you want to be an ambassador for the film? And we did a lot of those, and we were able to partner with Lionsgate, who's an amazing collaborator, and we said, just please trust that we're not going to cannibalize the audience. We're going to be seeding the audience in a way that is going to be magnified because they're so happy to have this amazing content and quality on screen. And they came out in large groups, and it was amazing to watch. But it was because we knew you connected the content with the right audience. That's the key. And at the end of the day, you have to have a great film. You just have to.
But
have
it's
a great
knowing
film.
who your audience is,
Yes,
even when you
it's
start.
knowing who your
I'm sorry,
audience is.
if you're going to start a movie, is who are you making the movie for? I mean, I've talked to kids in school, and I'm making a movie, and how are you going to get to them? How are you going to get to those people that you want to sell your movie to? And I'll give a small example. I had done my first movie for Charlie. It was called Finding Love in Sugar Creek. And it's based on a book from Guidepost, which does a newsletter to 5 million people monthly. But the newsletter goes out to 50 and above people. Their ages are 50 and above. And I'm thinking, my shoulders are good. I got 5 million people that have read this book, and they get this newsletter. And then I'm talking to some of the management at Up TV, and they're saying, we just had a meeting, and we're now trying to hit the 25 to 35-year-old woman.
That was very aspirational.
I know. And I'm
On
going,
cable.
oh my gosh. I have a movie we just finished, and it's Love Finds You in 50 different states. So there's 50 books, and this is my first book. And I'm like, if I don't get this one good, I don't know I'm going to do the other 49 titles I have. So I'm having kind of like come to Jesus moment. I'm like, what am I going to do? These are 50 and above people. The channel at that time was 50 and above, and all of a sudden we have to make these younger people come. And it hit me. Who's the people that's 25 and 35? Love Finds You in Sugar Creek. I hit all the dating sites. I put banners on Match.com, JDate, whatever you name it, Christian Mingle. I put little banners on, and we had how many viewers on the time?
That movie did about 800,000 in the night.
Yep,
Yeah,
in
it was
one
great.
night. So we hit that 25 to 35. So sometimes you got to think outside the box, but know, where's my people? How am I going to get to them? So it's more
I
than anything
always
else.
say, and an old boss mentor of mine, Chris Fuhrer, I don't know if any of you know her, she's amazing, but she used to say, Tiffany, who are the first 10 people in line for this movie? And we would walk through an exercise of who are the first 10 people in line when tickets go on sale, and that's your primary target. That's where you spend the majority of your budget, is on that, whatever that group of 10 looks like. You can widen it from there, but that's not where you're spending most of your effort and your time and your money.
By the way, that's why when I was going to say about when I go to look for content, I've made a lot of movies off of books and, famous authors and famous books and a famous song. I mean, because there are built-in audiences for that. I've always gravitated to that. So I completely agree. It's very important.
Do you need to go, Charlie?
I'm sorry, I should.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm having a little family emergency because I would love this panel. I love talking with you all. This is what I live to do, actually. Any last question?
Well, what are you buying and how do people pitch you?
Oh, my. I should have left a minute
You
ago,
should have
right?
been like,
Well, I
you
just bought a
said any more
documentary. What
questions?
more do you want, right?
yeah, I know.
We love the Amish movies. Doesn't mean everybody has to go make Amish movies. And we love the Amish movies because they do what we want to do naturally, right? What's great about an Amish movie, you just tell the story and it comes out, right? It comes out very naturally. Watching an Amish movie is, I like to say, it gives people that temporary escape into a time of moral certainty, right? So they don't have any surprises. What was this today that's that tomorrow? They don't have to worry about it. So we love stories like that. We love stories that are real, though. We really look for authentic stories. We're not Hallmark. I mean, no offense to Hallmark, but good for you pushing diversity at Hallmark and what they need to be doing. But we look for diversity in our stories, right? It's not just about casting. It's about the storyline, because you want viewers to relate to the story. They're not going to just relate to the face, right? They know how you speak to them. They know what their people are. They know how their people treat each other. So you've got to be real that way when you approach this. So movies that bring us diversity in a real way. If you look at our network and you look at the shows that are really popular on Up TV, and we've got Aspire and some others, but on Up TV you've got Reba. Reba's a single mom. Not all is perfect, right? But she gets through it. Gilmore Girls, single mom. So a lot of these, not perfect stories are really great for us. Because I think people relate to that. I mean, who lives a Hallmark life in this room? I don't, but I think it's really good that way.
My aunt's still trying to find the place. She wants to find the town, the guy, the chocolate, and the
Right.
cookies. Yeah.
But thank you. It's really a pleasure. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Charlie, and safe travels. So, Chris, I'm going to go back over to you. We're talking about built-in audiences. And as a minister and a leader, people look up to you. When you think about Hollywood, what are the stories that you wish could be told? What more would you like to see, knowing that you get direct feedback from your community?
That's a good question. When I think about what's missing, it's the stories of everyday life of folks that don't have a shiny spotlight on them, right? So, we see a lot of stories of people who are on the coast and successful, then they come to a small town in the middle of the country for some reason, but it's grounded in somebody that's on the coast and successful. We don't see as many stories. You all are doing the work of lifting up more of those stories of Batesville, Arkansas, which is the cutest little place in Christmas time, and they have a Christmas light show, right? We see it at certain times, but not overall. I think, continuing on that thread, there are places of people who really feel forgotten and unheard. And for me, it's less so about whether that type of story is told, but there are so many folks who feel like their own personal story isn't told, mainly because people don't feel like folks are listening to them. And that was a long answer, but to me, I think it's grounded in the day-to-day that people experience that runs counter to some of the narratives we hear on the news all the time.
Can I answer that too?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a lot of, just started as African American movies, and my mandate for the movies is putting them, yes, but in really high positions. I mean, I want the Black African American to know that they can be the top lawyers. They can have the biggest house. And I went to South Africa and I made one, and I had a girl, she was dating a South African here in the United States, and ends up dating him for 3 years. She thinks he's a struggling writer, and she's been helping him and brings her home to meet the family, ends up being their king and queens. And she ends up becoming the new princess of the family, so that they can feel that way. And now BET made me do the continuation, so it's now the royals had to come to the United States and meet the Americans. So it's fun, but putting everybody in higher positions instead of the stigma of ghetto or suffering. And they did that even to the Latins or the Colombians. Everybody in Colombia is supposed to be a drug addict, you know. So it's we keep manipulating in TV these agendas, or not agendas, but these ideas of people, and I want to change that. That's my main thing, is changing that idea that we're all the same. We want to go to work, we want to pay our kids, and we want to get lots of money.
And and I think that gets at it, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain set of folks who felt unheard because when you see Black people on the screen, there was a time, I think we're doing better now, but there was a time when it was always the ghetto. It was always a struggle. It was always a challenge. So that was a story that needed to be lifted up. And I think that's the piece that I'm referring to exactly, right? There's this unheardness that has to be addressed, and I love that you're doing that.
Right, and Grey's Anatomy, I think, was Shonda Rhimes started it. She's amazing.
I would like to add, because we're talking about let's say the faith and family market, and we've certainly, Tiffany, all of us are, and I can't wait to see your documentary. It sounds absolutely phenomenal, incredible.
Now that he sold it.
Yeah,
All right, there we go.
exactly.
Let's go.
But yeah, definitely. But the faith and family market, I want to see the bar lifted in terms of excellence. It has been too low for too long.
What do you mean by that?
It's just too many people making movies that are just either not experienced enough, or they don't care about the screenplay, which is the fountain from which all things spring forth. They don't take the time to identify a story that more people want to see than themselves. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I love that story. No one else wants to see it, you know, and then they go make it, and then they lose their investors' money. So, you know, I think that's a big deal. And I have to say, Siobhan and Kingdom, and there are some filmmakers out there making some really strong films now, but we need a lot more. And too many films still are being made that just should not be made. They're just not good enough. You know, so I want to see the bar continue to be raised.
But what I would recommend, if somebody's going to make a movie, besides knowing who you're going to target it, who are you going to sell it to? So if you're selling it, let's say even to Up TV, or you're selling it to Hallmark, know that channel, know that formula for what they're looking for. Not in your head. People bring me stories all the time and say, oh, this is perfect for Hallmark. And I read it and I'm like, did you watch the channel? Just because it's nothing, or it's a guy story, and I'm like, Hallmark's a female's line, so they're not going to take a guy's story. Not that we don't like guys, we do, but their channel is female. So I'll give a small example. I made 3 movies for Up, and Hallmark kept calling me, oh, I want an Amish movie, I want an Amish movie, Amish movie. So my next movie, I sent over to them a script, and they're not calling me back. I'm going, what's going on? You asked me, I did an Amish movie. This is a script, it's great. And then I said, I'm going to watch the channel. I was watching the channel 24 hours a day. I said, I'm going to break this. And I started going, I have the beginning. The beginning's right. I have the middle. I have the page. I have the count where he's going to turn and the boyfriend's going to change and come something. I mean, I went through the whole thing. And then all of a sudden I stopped, and you know what I did? Their main advertiser was Petco. I didn't have a dog. I went back and put a dog in the script, a little scene. I mean, that's a dumb thing. Like 2 pages. They called me back. The thing was, they wanted me to know what they did, not to have them tell me. So unless I know who their clients are, why am I making a movie for them? And it's the same thing for you all. Who are you making for? And know that client. Upways and downways, advertisers, whatever, at all.
I think, can I add to that quickly?
Oh, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I really, for anyone in the room that is a filmmaker, I think you can't, of course I'm going to say this because I'm a marketer, but I don't think you can get marketing involved too early. Because we tell people this all the time, like, let us consult with you on the script, from script to screen, because we will see opportunities in your script, or we will see things that aren't in your script that should be, and opportunities that we can help you craft a story that we know is going to appeal better to women than it is right now. You know, we just recently were asked to propose something, and I wish they had asked us earlier to be involved before the film was locked, because I said, you've got a great story, but I can't participate in marketing this story, and here's why. The way you've represented women is not going to be acceptable to me and anyone else in the audience. And so I just encourage you to use all aspects of your team, and, you know, when you're ready to invite someone who is looking at it from a marketing perspective,
A
to say,
distributor who's going to be selling
a distributor
it,
that
who
might
they're going to be selling
yes,
it to.
absolutely.
So if you don't know who to sell it to, talk to somebody who give you the genre. It didn't have to be 5 pages, just to see, am I in the right direction?
Yeah. Do I need a puppy?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Do I need a puppy?
And in that regard, I feel to be realistic about what project you're producing, because I have to equate this to a parent, because as a producer, you're the parent birthing the baby and raising it up. And it's kind of like, what parent who has a child doesn't think their kid's going to Harvard? And the truth is, some of them go to community college. And bottom line is, you might think your movie's the greatest thing that has ever been made, and it's not theatrical. But, you know, so many producers over decades I've spoken to that just, my movie's going to be the biggest thing that's ever been. They're just completely out of touch of reality. And now when it comes to theatrical, because they have, you know, been really blessed with some theatrical success here, it is super tough now. It's a lot tougher than it used to be. In the older days, it used to be you could literally have, you know, speaking of Walmart, if you opened a movie where in and around where Walmart stores were, you were, you know, you didn't even have to have it out long or wide in the number of screens, but you could tee it up for a great home video release. Now, you've really got to go in there very intentionally about, you know, this IP, to get it, you know, the marketing, couldn't agree more. Get this going immediately, you know, seed the ground as much as you can to have as much firepower and leverage as you possibly can if you're really thinking this could go theatrical. Because, again, it's tough. You've got to be able to deliver.
You're competing against Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, just know it, that Marvel and DNC, they're taking all your spots, and all the kids are going there. So when she goes to the theater to put one in, it's like, well, 2 of them just went to the Marvel characters. Are you going to give me 1 theater? It's down to that. It's down to they're not giving us the space either.
But here's the thing, in this space, faith and horror are literally the 2 genres that do incredibly well, whether times are good or times are bad. And the thing is about faith is that what we can do in the space, when we have something that will resonate to this audience, we can mobilize them. And now on steroids with social media and, you know, screenings and all the great things that Tiffany does.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because the next film from Kingdom Story Company is Ordinary Angels, comes out October 13th, and we are opening that weekend the same night that Exorcist 2 is opening. And so we're already planning, like, how do we use this to our advantage? Like, angels versus demons. Come on, people. We want angels to win. We want angels to win.
So,
Can I?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, October 13th is an amazing day. It's my wife and I have the same birthday, and it's October 13th. Yes.
We're blessed.
We'll
Lucky
be
day.
able to do it. Yeah.
Lucky day.
But can I ask a question of these trailblazers? Because I'm fascinated by what you all have done, and I'm interested in its impact on society. And so my question is, to what extent does the societal context and culture shape the movies you create? And to what extent do your movies and stories shape society?
Do you mind if I take that first?
No, it's an impact.
Only because I have a very timely response to that. So we started Jesus Revolution screenings, gosh, probably 4 months before the film came out. And I don't know if you all, and I'm not at all claiming that Jesus Revolution is responsible for this. I know that God is responsible for this. But as we were in the middle of our screening process, the revival at Asbury University broke out, and then a revival at Lee University. And this whole movie is about revival that started in Southern California. And one of the most impactful things about the whole campaign is it's still, the ripple effects of it are still happening. And just 2 or 3 weekends ago, if you've seen the movie, there's a huge baptism scene in Pirates Cove in Southern California. And about 3 weekends ago, Greg Laurie had 5,000 people show up to be baptized in Pirates Cove about 2 weekends ago. And that is how these films, the power that these films have to impact society, which is just remarkable.
Very true. I can say when we first started Mission together, Cindy and I, we had a title called Saved by Life.
Oh, yes. What the heck?
I know. I forgot.
We only did 200,
Yeah.
so.
But and it was the first time it dealt with a normal kid in high school whose friend
To save a life.
to save life, and the guy commits suicide, and he wasn't there for his friend, and how he changed in high school, and it was the first time that we were getting letters and emails of a mother saying, "Thank you for making this movie. This was, my son had talked to me. He was thinking of doing something like this. He had not." And the nice thing was there was a book, so they could blame the book. You know, it was a mom talking to him. It was the book, and the book became the conversation. So it moved me from the beginning when we started this, because before Cindy and I started Mission, I was the queen of action. I did 175 crash, boom, bam. That's what I was.
I will bring up my last movie, Redeeming Love. Thank you. That was a tough movie to make. Tough movie because cutting edge, right? Based on a best-selling book that was out there 30 years and edgy. I mean, or not edgy, right? Rape, incest, child prostitution, trafficking. I mean, these are tough subjects, right? And I'm so proud of the movie because, you know, the impact of the movie has been so great. We're 95% audience score. And by the way, the critics killed us, And I don't care. I don't care what the critics say because I'm not making the movies for the critics. I'm making the movies for the audience. And I was true to the book. And the author of the book wrote the script, and she produced with me. And I will tell you, this movie has had a profound impact. It birthed a 501c3, a charitable organization that the director's wife, myself, Francine Rivers, and a few other women founded, called Redeeming Love Sanctuary, which is solely dedicated to giving grants out to organizations that helped women who have either been trafficked or abused. And we have received countless emails, calls, I mean, all kinds of messages from women that said, "We saw this movie, and you guys saved my life watching this movie because I felt like there was no hope." I mean, again, this movie is all about that. No matter how bad you've messed up, like choices you've made, or something that somebody has done something horrible to you, you're just totally an innocent victim. You know, I think as women, we've carried a lot of shame in our life about either things done to us or choices that we've made that we're not proud of. And this movie is a movie that it's a baptism. It just cleanses you of anything that you could have possibly done to, you know, that you're never anywhere, you're not far away from God. You're always right there. He will always forgive you. He'll always redeem you. So that movie really made a big difference with a lot of people out there.
So the power of storytelling. So I wanted to open it up. We're almost at time, but does anyone have a question? You, right back there, our winner. He's one of our winners. Yes.
So first of all, thank you for mentioning that the screenwriters and giving us a shout out.
Absolutely.
As
Yes.
a screenwriter, I very much appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
So, okay, you all talked about diversity, inclusivity, authentic faith stories. And I want to say, especially given the rise of white Christian nationalism and bigotry in this country, and the way that people are using their faith stories and telling this false narrative that Christianity supports bigotry. Do you think there is
absolutely. I think in Jesus Revolution, I mean, Lonnie Frisbee, I would like to see the movie go further into that. Absolutely. I mean, the God we serve is Jesus didn't come to condemn or judge the world. I mean, he came to save it. And like Chris said, this is all about love and unity.
Yeah.
And so I think that a better job needs to be done there as a whole, because love really is the key. Love conquers all.
And I would say that yes, you have to find your audience, right? Like that, not everyone that saw Jesus Revolution and these movies is going to want to see that content, but there is an audience. How many queer Christian families and folks and people with children that are queer are going to love those films, and they're going to be supportive and grateful that they exist. And so yes, there is a space for it. It all goes back to like any other movie, like a horror movie, like a wide faith release, like a love story. It's finding the right audience for your story. And understanding.
And if you put love in it, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And I believe it also, again, taps into that, what I call the fundamental frequency, which is love. And my Bible tells me to love my neighbor. It doesn't say love my neighbor if they're
Right.
straight, cisgendered, if they're black. It says love my neighbor, period.
Period.
So
Yeah.
that's the frequency we have to tap into.
I love I saw a meme recently that said, if God didn't send Jesus to condemn the world, I doubt he sent you.
Yeah, that's all that was awesome.
And he didn't. I love that.
Do we have another question? Oh, gentleman in the blue check. Yes, sir.
Not a question, a comment. Dr. Jones, do not get up and fight. I wish you were my governor. First, I read it for you about 12 times. I did everything I could.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't you give up either. Even in the midst of trying, challenging times, don't give up. And I will say, so I wear this lapel pin often. It's a bumblebee on it, and Cindy has it on her shoes.
Yes, I do.
Yes. And it's about, you all know the story of the bumblebee because I told it all the time, but it's about doing the impossible and working really hard. And sometimes you have to keep flapping your wings to get there. So let's keep flapping our wings.
So we have time for one more question. Yes, ma'am.
We will do that.
We've had conversations about that, and I've had that conversation with other filmmakers on representing children with disabilities. There's a film coming out from Kingdom, The Unbreakable Boy. It's about a young man with autism and brittle bone disease, both, and the struggles his family has, and the struggles his sibling, what it's like to be a sibling of a child with disability, what it's like to be a parent, what happens to a marriage, and how this son is the child that has autism teaches all of them so many things. There's a scene where his brother is getting bullied, and the brother without the disability says, "Why are you so kind to him?" to Austin, and Austin says, "Because he's sad." And he teaches so many things, and I don't know if that's what you're.
Just to make it like the everyday where it's not the focus would be, for example, like advertising for like kids in Halloween costumes. This was a big deal when it was little, that we had someone with a brace. Like it wasn't the main focus, that it was just part of the everyday.
Yeah.
If you could do that, that's really helpful because it doesn't bring it to the attention, just make it for them trying something.
It's not about the identity.
Yeah. Do you follow the Lucky Few on Instagram? Lucky Few Official. Go follow her. She's mom with. You don't? Okay. Well, anyway, she has a podcast as well. This is her mission. She has 2 children with Down syndrome, and all 3 of her children are adopted. 2 have Down syndrome, and she talks so much about let's not point out their differences. Let's just include them in everything. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
That are funny are always funny. It doesn't matter. You know, it's kind of like he could tell a joke or
Thank you. Well, unfortunately, we are at time. I want to thank our esteemed panelists. Thank you all for giving us your time, and I hope you enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of the festival. Thank you.